Top five.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 5th episode of The Countdown. We're ranking the biggest surprises of the 2022 NFL season. And if you've been following along, you might be surprised we got a whole new setup and we had to take our game to another level.
Damn, Rob, we really got new mics. We got the new backdrop. We even got new chairs, man. So while we're implementing new stuff, y'all should sit there and smash that like button and definitely subscribe to the channel because we're here to stay, man. We're going to keep dropping, and we want y'all to make sure y'all stay tuned in and, drop a comment. Let us know your top 5.
Absolutely. And just like the players and teams on this list, they made sure they were surprising people. Might have been a little under the radar, but they made it clear they're here to stay as well. And so getting into the countdown, we're starting out with number 5, the Minnesota Vikings. Has there been a crazier season in recent history than the Minnesota Vikings? I mean, it seemed like every week they were in a battle, going down to the wire, one-score games every single week. And with Kirk Cousins and a rookie head coach at the helm, they were finding ways to win those close games, come through when it matters. And you could have never seen something like that from Kirk Cousins, who might have had the worst track record in NFL primetime history. Like, anytime he doesn't play at 1 o'clock, it's not going well for him.
It gets trolled every time about it.
Literally. Yeah. And here he is, kind of making a statement, putting Justin Jefferson on the map as the greatest receiving season in Vikings history. Yeah. And it was just really crazy to see how week after week the tides would turn, and any Vikings fan would definitely tell you they had their popcorn ready almost every single week.
Absolutely. And the Vikings went 8-9 last year. They finally fired Mike Zimmer. They brought in a new coach this year, and they went 13-4. So some people might be surprised, Rob, why the Vikings are number 5 on this list. Well, I'll tell you why they're number 5. The Vikings started to stall out towards the end of the year. You got to think about it. The Vikings were 7-1, and their only loss was to the Philadelphia Eagles, who clearly won the NFC or the regular season title.
Real early in the season, too.
Exactly. They actually beat the Bills next week to go to 8-1 with that overtime win, and then they got their ass whooped by the Dallas Cowboys, 40-3. And ever since then, it feels like the team started to figure out what Kevin O'Connell was doing. And that's the thing about new coaches, Rob. The Vikings had a good team last year. They just weren't good enough. And when you bring in a good or a new offensive coach, new offensive mind, it's a different scheme that teams in the division, like the Packers and them, have to adapt to. And for the first time in a long time, you don't see the Packers in the playoffs. You don't see the Packers winning the NFC North. You see the Minnesota Vikings doing it. So it was quite a surprising season, but they stalled out and they lost in the first round to the New York Giants.
Yeah, crazy to see how that went down. And moving on to number 4, we have the AFC West. Brandon, why was the AFC West so surprising this year?
Coming into the year, I mean, the AFC West was predicted to be maybe the best division in football. You think about the moves that the Chargers made, J.C. Jackson, Khalil Mack at edge. You think about the moves that the Raiders made, Devontae Adams. The Broncos got Russell Wilson. I mean, there's huge moves that would be made in the AFC West, but yet the division was mediocre. The Chiefs kind of surprised, I guess. I mean, they got rid of Tyreek Hill. People thought they might have downgraded a little bit, but I mean, they won the AFC. They were the number 1 seed. But really, teams like the Broncos are the teams that we got to focus on. I mean, you get Russell Wilson. You got a great roster. You have a great defense, yet your team just fizzled out. You even got an offensive head coach. And, Nathaniel Hackett goes 1 and done. Think about teams like the Raiders, who everybody thought they had a franchise quarterback in Derek Carr, potentially. And they go and get his best friend. And Derek Carr is out the door in Las Vegas. Surprise. I mean, the Chargers, stacked team, folded against the Jaguars, huge lead, and just didn't make things happen. So, I mean, there's countless reasons why the AFC West surprised and faltered this year. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, even the Chargers, their backs was against the wall to get there. They had to win those last 4 games to even make it in there. Yep. And they were supposed to be the really, at least most people thought, of all the 4 teams that all had a lot of hype. Like you said, going into the season might have been the most hyped up division we've seen in a long, long time. The fact that they had all those quarterbacks in place, 2 Super Bowl winning QBs with Mahomes and Russell Wilson, and Derek Carr's a Pro Bowler, Justin Herbert's a Pro Bowler. So you really had a lot of excitement going into the year, a lot of competition. Some people were even thinking all 4 teams could make the playoffs. And it turned out that, once again, the big bad Chiefs were going to lead the division. I think it was their 6th or 7th straight year winning it. Obviously, all 5 with Mahomes as a starting quarterback. And that was probably the only thing that wasn't surprising was how good the Chiefs were. But even that, people expected to drop drop off, like you said,
least a little
after
bit.
Tyreek. And it really, I think, comes down to the fact that they had all those major acquisitions, the Devontae Adams, the Khalil Max, and all those guys you mentioned, just to have another losing season. And the fact that they went and got Russell Wilson, who was one of the better players over the last 10 years, just completely became one of the worst players. Just like that, in the new system or new location or whatever you want to say is the reason.
Got the bag this offseason, too.
Got the bag, too, probably a little prematurely.
Yeah.
And it really is interesting how that kind of declined. But it goes right into our point of number 3, where we're talking about the Seattle Seahawks after the surprising year that they had, trading away Russell Wilson, trading away who we thought was their franchise quarterback, but somehow got a franchise quarterback instead in Geno Smith, who was a complete bust entering the league. I think he was a second-round pick, but hyped up as one of the top quarterbacks that year back in 2013. And he really didn't surface at all until 10 years later this year, finally getting the chance to start. They had a little preseason quarterback battle between him and Drew Lock, but it was kind of always Geno's to lose, and he didn't lose it. And right out the gate against the Broncos Monday Night Football, he let people know, I ain't right back yet. And since then, the Seattle season was probably unlike any of us expected.
I mean, what a year for Seattle. You get rid of Russell Wilson. Everybody thinks that, Pete Carroll's an older guy. People are thinking about Pete Carroll might be on his way out the door. Same thing for the GM. And they gave Geno Smith a chance last year. And the times that he played when Russell Wilson was hurt, it gave the team some confidence that maybe he can get the job done. They still got Drew Lock, but nobody was really worried about Drew Lock really winning the competition. But Geno Smith has always had talent. Things kind of didn't work out in New York, and things kind of surfaced back, and he's gotten a chance, and he's ran with it. Like he said, he ain't calling back or he ain't writing back.
Right.
And John Snyder did an amazing job this offseason.
Gotta give credit to John Snyder.
Think about the draft they had, like the key positions: quarterback, tackle, edge, cornerback, receiver, things like that. This man got
Nailed all of
2
them.
starting tackles, Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross. He got Boye Mafe at edge, who could develop into a really good pass rusher. Think about corner. He got Kobe Bryant and Tariq Woolen, who is an
Tariq's a
all-pro
beast.
caliber player
Yeah.
as a rookie. And then last but not least, they got Kenneth Walker, who could be
Toting
a
that.
top 5 running
Yep.
back as soon as next year. So, I mean, when you nail a draft like that, that's how you're able to get past a potential rebuilding year like they thought they were going to have when it came down to trading Russell Wilson.
Yeah, just like that. And John Snyder proved himself again as one of the better GMs in the league.
Absolutely.
That's why they were one of the better organizations for so long, and people expected a drop-off, but they surprised once again by making the playoffs just like that. And moving on to number 2, we have the New York teams, the Jets and the Giants. Such a surprising year for both, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, Rob, one of the funniest things is I had a son at the beginning of next year prior to the season, and I actually bet my boss if the Giants don't win 6 games, like I said, if the Giants win 6 games, I'll buy my son a shirt and make him wear Giants stuff.
Oh, he's
for a
rocking
week.
that Giants
And he's
shirt
rocking
now.
Giants stuff now. I mean, you think about it. This team won 4 games in the final year with Joe Judge, and they transitioned to a new coach and Brian DeBall, straight out of Buffalo, offensive coach as well, and he just runs with it. I mean, last year they decided not to even do the 5th-year option on Daniel Jones. He's looking like a franchise option at quarterback now. They really just turned the whole year around. They went 9-7-1, made the playoffs, beat the Vikings, the number 5 team on our list, in the playoffs. So the Giants just did a really good job. They clearly got a coach of the future, maybe a top 5, top 3 coach in the league based off what he handled this year.
Coach of the year.
Coach of the year, Daniel
Cannon.
Jones. He really enhanced Daniel Jones' performance and really used his legs and built around Saquon. He did a great job this year. And when you think about the Jets had terrible quarterback play, but they had one of the best defenses in the league. And talking about Brian DeBall's offensive coach, Robert Saleh is a defensive coach, and it really showed this year how that defense dominated and carried them the whole year. I mean, they rotated 3 quarterbacks, Zach Wilson, Mike White, and Joe Flacco at quarterback. I mean, they have some serious weapons at receiver.
Hard to win like that.
Yeah, really hard. They got Garrett Wilson. Unfortunately, breakout running back got hurt this year. Breece Hall, who was really balling in those couple games that he got the chance to start and really flash. So, I mean, both these teams surprised, and it was just – these are new coaches that have barely been there. Brian DeBall's first year, Salah's second year, and these teams really are looking like a threat in their divisions.
Yeah, and when you factor in the New York environment, the fact that the media kind of blows things out of proportion, makes the Jets look even worse. Like, I know you Jets fans, you guys have been through a lot. Giants at least have a couple rings on their fingers, but they've been through some tough times these last 5 years. But it seemed like 2022 changed things around for both franchises, and they started to continue on that trend upward. The Giants obviously being able to make the playoffs because the NFC had a little less competition for those wild card spots than the Jets, who had a lot of teams going for those final spots. But I think going forward is really the biggest statement that this season made for both franchises. Like you said, talking about the young coaches, Robert Saleh in there. Ever since then, they're taking receipts. And I don't even think a lot of people saw them having as successful of a season as they had this year. And then the Giants with Brian Daboll, his first year taking over the reins, instantly making Daniel Jones have one of the fewest interceptions in the league among any starting quarterback, making Saquon Barkley an Offensive Player of the Year candidate, and really turning that franchise around. And then in the Jets, you have a team that might arguably have the best overall roster in the league if you take away the quarterback, because Zach Wilson's fucking awful. But if they add a quarterback, they go get a guy like Lamar or Dak Prescott or someone who can, at least be serviceable or above average. That team could really make some noise, and I think that's what 2022 really surprised people, is how well those New York teams fared this year.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how these GMs build around the team's success this year. You got to think about it. The Giants didn't really have receivers this year. They signed Isaiah Hodgins off the street, who's just wound up having a great year down the stretch for them. But, I mean, if they really have solidified receivers, Wan'Dale Robinson got hurt, traded away Kadarius Toney, Sterling Shepard got hurt. So, I mean, both of these teams dealt with injuries and a lot of adversity and still powered through. Obviously, the Jets didn't make the playoffs, but the Giants made the playoffs, man, and they won a playoff game. I mean, great years, bro. You really can't say enough about it.
Absolutely. So, moving on to the top of the countdown, we go to the bottom of the 2022 NFL Draft. We're talking about Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy. I mean, anytime you see someone at that type of draft position have success in the league, it's going to be a surprise, right? But to see it happen in year one to a contending team, one of the Super Bowl favorites who entered the year with Trey Lance finally getting his chance, being able to showcase that mobility and passing prowess in Kyle Shanahan's offense and seeing what he can do. They surprisingly kept Jimmy G, which ended up benefiting them greatly because Lance obviously got hurt very early in the season, and Jimmy G came in and, kept things afloat, kept things serviceable. But then when Brock Purdy came in, it was dub after dub after dub after dub after dub after dub after dub, and he just didn't lose. Yeah. And to see a guy like that have success so quickly just shows kind of the coaching and the organization that they have in place to allow him to succeed with all those weapons, with that great O-line, with the system that puts him in such a position to succeed. But man, no one could have seen Brock Purdy be in the NFL Super Bowl contention picture like he was this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things built around Brock Purdy. You got to think about it. The pick before, the Dolphins took Skylar Thompson, which is crazy enough in it, and they took him with the last pick. And
another playoff quarterback.
And he was the third quarterback on the roster coming into the season. Trey Lance goes down. Like you said, they pivot to Jimmy G, and now they pivot to him after another injury on the third quarterback, and all he does is get dub after dub after dub after dub. It's just truly impressive. And when you think about it, like, he's a 6'1", small quarterback, not with a great arm, not with great speed, but he does certain things right, kind of just like Taylor Heineke. He's a gamer in a certain way, protects the ball better than Taylor Heineke, but he's a smaller guy, but he moves well. He navigates the pocket. His team really builds around him. He knows how to find the right receiver, right tight end, Christian McCaffrey at the right time. He just has his team gelling. He has them scoring so many points as well. He really just has his offense on a complete different level. It's awesome to see from the last pick. Such an unlikely story to finish off our list at number one. Brock Purdy, he's really that guy. This dude was a 3-star recruit as well, too. He played quarterback at Iowa State, basically started his whole career.
Kind of lit it up at Iowa State.
So obviously he was underrated, and he had some big offers. I saw he had an offer from Alabama, as a matter of fact. So, I mean,
probably would have been the third string there.
Yeah, probably would have. So, I mean, shoot, Alabama did it before with the Patriots quarterback, Mac Jones. Right. Yep, he was a 3-star as well. So it's just great to see guys that are underrated. Final pick of the draft, really have one of the best teams in the league, one of the best organizations, 5 Super Bowl organization in the San Francisco 49ers, really able to compete for a Super Bowl again. Just crazy stuff, Rob.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, like, the reason he is going to go at the bottom of the draft is because of the lack of physical abilities. But I think what Brock Purdy showed this year is from up here, he's got it. He has good leadership. He has good poise. He's showing people that he's not looking like a rookie. And it really went to prove that, he can have success in this league. And it'll be interesting to kind of see how that plays out going forward. Are they going to give Trey Lance the spot, who's almost the complete opposite, the guy with all the physical tools possible and ceiling through the roof, for a guy like Brock Purdy, who's already proven that he can have success? It'll be interesting to kind of see how Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are able to make that decision going forward.
Yeah, great offensive mind, Hall of Fame general manager. They know what they're doing, and it looks like Brock Purdy could be that guy of the future. We'll see what they can get rid of Trey Lance for, or if they keep him.
Absolutely. So those were the 5 biggest surprises of the 2022 NFL season. And we got the article right here. You can go on prosportsoutlook.com, create your own rankings of what you think is the biggest surprise of the year. And of course, this video is sponsored by Fangear Nation. You get great jerseys at a great price. You can go to fangearnation.com and get those and support your squad.
Rock with Fangear Nation. Rock with us. Smash that like button. Hit that
Smash
subscribe
that
button. Let us know your top 5 in the comments. We rock with y'all. Continue to rock with us.